Hello, hello, hello. It's Christy here from version of you 2.0. And I wanted to get us started on time again with our next training that speaks to the relationship that you have with yourself, still talking about our self-sabotaging behaviors. One of the major barriers that we have is that we do have these, deep blockages that exist inside of us that default anytime we're afraid. And we've just gotten so good at these default behaviors that we don't even recognize that there's an underlying emotion that we're trying to ignore. So part of the purpose behind all of these trainings, we did your money beliefs, and we did like the impacts of those money beliefs. Last week, we talked about your self-sabotaging behaviors. And this week, we're going to talk about those impacts of your self-sabotaging behaviors. In doing all of this stuff, I just kind of want to put it out there that this work is extremely important and awareness is number one. When you're aware that you have these default patterns, when you're aware that you've got triggers, then at least then you know you can do something about it. What I do highly recommend, of course, is that you're not doing it alone, whether it be with me or another professional. I just want the best for you. So whatever's best for you is what I want. But the do-it-yourself approach is not really the answer. So please take these trainings as an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself, knowing that for you to really start to transform your life in the direction that you want, that, the accountability and the support is going to be needed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to share my screen and we can get going. I'm just going to make this big enough that I can share my screen. Pardon me while I work through the different share screen. Share. There we go. And make that big. Fantastic. We are here. It's going to move this. I don't know if you can see that, but I can, and it's in my way. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm really excited about today's training because we do get into detail, as I mentioned, about how self-sabotaging behaviors can affect your relationship with how you see yourself. So your self-value, how you evaluate your value in this world. So last week I had you identify those self-sabotaging behaviors that show up when you want to avoid feeling sadness, disappointment, vulnerability, and learn to identify the triggers and your physiology when you've been triggered. When you can recognize early on that you're being triggered, you can better manage your responses. And when you can manage your responses, you can curb your sabotaging behavior. So we can start to create some wrenches, if you will, in the spiral effect when we're starting to self-sabotage. So if we can kind of slow that process down, we can acknowledge that it's happening to us a little bit sooner, we can take appropriate action. So now that you have the list that you received from last week's work on your default behaviors, we can explore how those are affecting your self-worth, your self-confidence, and your self-esteem. And to do that, I need to define those three terms so that we're all on the same page. But just before I do, I'd like to go ahead and introduce myself to you because we are always building our community. And because we're always building our community, I recognize that I'm a stranger to a good number of you who are watching this. And it's really important to me that you understand what I'm about, where all of this information comes from. It really comes from a place of me wanting to do good in the world and using the online platform as a means to get that information out to the masses as easily and effectively as possible. So my name is Christy. I am the founder and CEO of version of you 2.0. My goal, my mission, my life's purpose is global transformation, which is where I get to help you transform your life. And in return, you model your lifestyle and your behavior for others to see, inspiring them to change their lives for the better. And that's where you get the global transformation. It's that ripple effect. So together we can create a world of acceptance, understanding, joy, and respect. And it starts when we step into the commitment of our own personal growth. So my ideal clients are women looking to overcome their relationship struggles with themselves, where they may be dissatisfied with their weight and bodies and come to realize that their problems and solutions go well beyond weight loss. I focus on expediting results. That's really important to me through various options, including my online programs that offer flexibility and convenience, and weekly group coaching sessions for accountability and support, in addition to one-on-one coaching options, including hypnotherapy to get laser focused on your results, as well as through my cellular support supplement that addresses hormone imbalances, gut health issues, autoimmune conditions. It helps with sports performance, fat burning, and reduces inflammation. Now, via these offerings, you'll be able to find the time, you'll be able to prioritize your health and well-being, reduce your stress, take back control of your health, learn and understand your self-sabotaging behaviors, because it's about the psychology, right? And then how to move past those self-sabotaging behaviors. So I'm really excited to be working with you in this personal transformation space. Please reach out to me through direct message, email, or book a call if you want to get started to learn more about how I may be able to help you. All right, so back to our training, and I'm just going to check in with you to see if I can find where we are in our group. Refresh, in case you have questions. Here we go. Okay, I'm now with you. So 2 of you are watching right now. If you've got questions, put them in the comments. There's going to be a delay between what I'm going to be saying to you live and what I'm going to be seeing. So if I'm answering the question and I'm on a different part of the topic, I apologize in advance for that delay. All right, so let's move on. So I love this transformation paradigm, and I need you to tattoo this into your soul, okay? Everyone is winning the game they are playing. You will always win the game that you play. So, you know, outside of being a coach and a student of hypnotherapy at the moment, I will be a licensed hypnotherapist the end of next month. I'm also a group fitness instructor. So I like to motivate people who don't necessarily want to exercise and torture, train them. So in doing so, one of the statements I make is you're always winning the game that you're playing. So if you always tell yourself that you just can't finish, you're too tired today, that you're just not going to show up, or you're only going to do part of it, then that's exactly what's going to happen, right? You will always win the game that you're playing. People work to produce the results they believe they deserve. Let me say that again. If you take anything from today, this is what you need to take. People work to produce the results they believe they deserve. What you know logically versus what you believe are not the same, okay? And if you remember from our first training on self-sabotage, I defined self-sabotage as our conscious or unconscious construction of barriers that stop us from creating change. Conscious or unconscious, we choose to justify not doing something, or we unconsciously decide to steer clear of the fear for whatever the reason may be, ultimately because we don't feel like we're in control of a situation. So it's our conscious or unconscious decisions that either create or precipitate our issues around our self-value. So what is the difference between self-worth, self-confidence, and self-esteem? Although I use these words interchangeably, they do have different definitions, although they kind of mean the same thing. Self-worth is about whom you think you are, how you measure up against others, your perceived value, your worth as a person. Your self-confidence is about your belief in what you feel you can accomplish, in your abilities, in your confidence in the skill set that you have. And self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves when we compare ourselves to others, when we compare our physique, our financial status, our intellect, our level of education and academic, I can't think of the word, degrees, diplomas, skill sets, level of education. So with low self-worth, when we perceive our worthiness as low, our self-sabotaging behaviors can include unhealthy habits by neglecting our health, right? We don't feel like we're deserving of taking better care of ourselves. We don't make ourselves a priority. So for those of you who struggle with that, there's a very high chance that you struggle with self-worth issues, that you will punish and reward yourself. You're doing well, and you'll go ahead and reward yourself, but that reward is not in alignment with what you really want for yourself. And the best example that I can give is you're looking to lose weight and you reward yourself by eating a whole cake. You justified you were really good this week, and then you go ahead and you eat a piece of cake, and then you eat more cake, and then you eat more cake, and the next day you realize that the majority of the cake or the entire cake is gone, right? You rewarded yourself for this behavior because at the time it seemed like a good idea. Resistance, people-pleasing, and lacking of boundaries are other self-sabotaging behaviors that coincide with low self-worth. In addition to behavior addictions like food, cutting, alcohol, sex, shopping, and excessive working, so being a workaholic. With low self-confidence, we may avoid situations where we must prove our skill sets. So these include avoidant tactics like procrastination and disorganization. Have you ever decided to take on a whole bunch of different things and not finish something? I do that with books. For whatever reason, I've got 5 books on the go right now. It's like I want to absorb all the information from each of these books, but I never get through a full book, and I'm still not quite sure what that is. If that's just I lose interest and the motivation's not there anymore, if there's something underlying that. But have you taken on different certifications and not finished them? Have you taken on different projects at work and haven't finished those projects? Are you just taking on a lot in life but not finishing things like house renovations, for instance? When there's disorganization and there's a pattern of that, there's something underlying there, okay? Making yourself small, trying to be invisible. This can come in the form of also belittling yourself or through self-deprecation. So, oh, so stupid, I just can't do this. Like, oh, I should have known better. You know I don't have what it takes to be able to do this. Deflecting, resistance, perfectionism, and these behavior addiction habits like work, video gaming to avoid social interaction, porn, food, and exercise. Disorganization is a way to remain in chaos, as I mentioned, to avoid making a decision or achieving an outcome that you really desire. Resistance is really the resistance of being happy. You can't accept that you actually deserve happiness. If somebody compliments you, it feels foreign to you to actually accept the compliment. In fact, it's just extremely uncomfortable. Procrastination and believing that what you want is not available to you. How are we doing so far? 1 comment. Nice. Let me see where we're at here. How are we doing so far? Oops, I don't want that. 1 comment. Nice. Let me see where we're at here. Hello, ladies. Let me see if I can get into the chats. I think I just put myself into jail here. I can't see the comments yet. I'll try and address the comments in my responses to you afterwards, worst case scenario, okay? So self-esteem. With low self-esteem, we may enact the following sabotaging behaviors because we feel inadequate in our comparison with others. So we have behavior addictions. And again, remember, everything about self-sabotage is because part of us is at war with the other part of us. Part of us wants to eat healthy. but the other part of us doesn't. And it's trying to figure out that why. And I can tell you it's psychological. Okay. So let me just save you the 10 years of therapy and just work with me and we'll get the results. Okay. There was a pretty bad plug there, wasn't there? So any kind of behavior addiction, shopping, exercise, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, work, alcohol, video gaming, perfectionism, and isolation, which kind of coincides with the video gaming because it's to isolate yourself from social interaction. They're all just designed for you not to not to be at war, right? To avoid feeling the feelings that for you to get what it is that you want, you're going to have to sacrifice something. And that other part of you is not willing to let something go. And we're going to get into that a little bit more in today's session. Other self-sabotaging behaviors with regards to self-esteem include justification, judging others, and unfamiliarity. And watch my video that I posted, was it yesterday, on unfamiliarity or the day before? This one's a really juicy one, so you want to watch that video. So unfamiliarity is when we have grown or moved beyond our comfort zone. And what we're familiar with, and this happens all the time with diets, what we're familiar with, we actually step back into. Every single person that ever works with me has done some form of a diet plan, some sort of an exercise plan, has been successful, but are coming to me because they've gained the weight back. Every single person, okay? There's always some sort of behavior pattern that puts you right back to where you were, if not worse off, okay? So we end up stepping back into our comfort zone instead of continuing to stretch and grow. We can even create physical illness in order to be forced to stop the exercise program or the eating routine or whatever it may be. And we can feel guilty and we can choose to stop. So there's all of these ways in which our mind will play games with us to allow the part of us that doesn't want to move forward to win that war. Okay, because here's a tip for you. The way that the mind works is it's attached to emotion. And you know this, right? The parts of us that don't want to move forward are the parts of us that are attached to emotion. That's why I say we got to work on your psychology. I will work on your eating habits. I will provide you with a cellular supplement that will absolutely help your body to become healthier. But I also need to work on your psychology because it's those attachments that you have to emotion that revert you right back to where you were. Okay, so paying for everything else. This is why a lot of the diet programs that exist on the marketplace today don't work. It's not because you can't follow through with them. Sorry, it is because that you can't follow through with them. That's the problem. And it's not your fault. It's because they don't offer the psychology side of the equation of all of the support mechanisms that you need to be successful. That's why only 5% of the population are successful. And that's because when you do the math and there's the high volume of people who actually take the program, there's a very small percentage of people that actually only need to know how to eat healthy, who know how to exercise. The majority of us can Google free healthy eating plans. But if the psychology, if the emotional attachments that we have don't allow us to do that, then we're not going to be successful. So stop spending your money on that stuff. Okay, in our last training, I gave you tips on how to address self-sabotage, which included acknowledge that your actions are self-sabotaging, right? You got to know you're doing it. Step number 1. Get help so that you can determine the origin. We all have deep psychology attached to our behaviors, as you're designed to keep from experiencing feelings that consciously or unconsciously you want to forget. So like I said, you've got to work on the psychology, okay? And then learn your triggers. The more you're sensitive to your physiology, the easier it will be to recognize that you're actually being triggered so you can stop yourself from the spiral effect. And today I want to dive into how your behaviors are impacting your life so that you can evaluate if you're willing to let go of your behaviors. Because here's the thing. We can set up a call, you can tell me all your problems, but at the end of the day, you're the one that has to step into the uncomfortable place, right? You're the one that's going to have to deal with the psychology. I will make it as easy for you as possible, but you're still the one doing the work. I'm not, okay? So you have to decide to let these go. That has to be your decision. You have to be sick and tired enough of being sick and tired. Okay, so we create these behaviors as a means to either, listen carefully, to protect ourselves, to bring attention to ourselves, or to punish ourselves. And it's the impact of the behaviors that we recognize are destroying our ability to live the life we want to live. That's the place that we're at war. We recognize that we want to be healthier. We recognize that we want to do better, that we want to be better. But the other part of us, the psychological part that's attached to this trauma, wants to protect us from experiencing the trauma over again. So step number 1, review your list of default sabotaging behaviors that you learned from last week. Step 2, identify how each of these impact your life positively and negatively. And this is actually a really good tip because this is a technique that we use on our one-on-one sessions. So this is saving you a ton of money right now. Okay. So step 2, identify how these impact you positively and negatively. So quite literally, with your self-sabotage default list that you created last week, take one of the self-sabotaging behaviors and then put pro, con, and a line down the middle. How is that self-sabotaging behavior helping you? How is a self-sabotaging behavior sabotaging you? Okay. And then step number 3, identify if the behavior was trying to, protect you, punish you. Identify its current role. So that's where you get into if the sabotage behavior is trying to protect you, punish you, or well, we're just going to go with those 2 for now, because the giving you attention kind of shows up in symptoms, symptoms in signs typically on your body. You got pain, you've got eczema, you've got this cough that won't go away, just stuff like that. So right now, you're going to review your list of sabotaging behaviors that you from the homework last week. You're going to identify the pros and cons on your list, and then you're going to take a look at the self-sabotaging behaviors and you go, what is this behavior trying to do? Is it trying to protect me or is it trying to punish me? Okay. How am I doing for time? Okay, perfect. So I've only got 8 minutes left. Okay, but I'm almost there. So here's a disclaimer for you, and I mentioned it at the very beginning because this is super, super, super important. I recognize that what it is that I'm providing you in terms of information is not easy. It is really hard to move through old habits. And the longer that you've been sitting with that old habit, the longer that you've believed the belief that you believe, the harder it is to switch out that old habit and that old belief with a new one. Okay. And the common pitfall in a do-it-yourself approach is that you have to have both perspective and distance from the emotional triggers. And this is why I advocate that you get help. And again, it doesn't have to be me. Okay. I'm not advocating me. I'm advocating for you. If you suffer from emotional traumas that aren't allowing you to live the life that you want to live, you know this already. It is, if you try and do this on your own, all you're doing is lengthening the time period where you're going to sit in anxiety. Okay. Period. End of story. And I'm sorry, but I need to tell you that. So although in our trainings today and from our past trainings, we can identify our behaviors and create a list to swap any unhealthy behaviors with healthy ones, sometimes there's that deeper layer of trauma that has to be released. And this is where a coach or therapist will be able to help. So if you came here today expecting to release your inner demons, then you need to book a call with me or find someone who can help you. Okay. All right. So here's your homework. Identify your list of sabotaging behaviors if you didn't do that last week. Okay. So when you get triggered, when you become sad, when you feel lonely, when you feel like you've disappointed somebody, when you're feeling a sense of fear or restlessness, what is the habit that's attached to that trigger? Come up with the pros and cons list, as I mentioned before, for each of those sabotaging behaviors. Identify if the behavior was trying to protect you, punish you. If you can, you want to recognize if it was trying to bring you attention. I'm going to try and elaborate on that a little bit more. sometimes our self-sabotaging behaviors are designed because we feel like we didn't get the attention when we were growing up. And because we didn't get the attention when we were growing up, we need to do things. And oftentimes they're like things that we regret later, in order to showcase ourselves. Other times it comes out in the form of physical symptoms, as I mentioned before. And I can imagine that that might be hard for you to wrap your head around, that having psoriasis all over your body. I know you don't want that, but sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the psychological attachment to that is actually that it was designed to bring you attention because it meant that you had to be looked after in some capacity. So that one can be a little bit tricky to kind of digest. So I didn't get into it too much today, but I'm just kind of putting it out there for you. And then the fourth piece of homework that I'm adding that you aren't aware of yet, which you can see from the PowerPoint right now, is identify what other role the behavior can fill. Because oftentimes when we're at war with ourselves, part of us that wants to stay the same, wants to stay complacent in mediocrity and in the status quo, wants to stay there because it's better than the unknown, right? And we're afraid of the unknown. But you recognize that how it's staying the same isn't bringing you to that place of where you want to be, of that higher level of care that you envision for yourself. So what other role can you give that self-sabotaging behavior? If it was designed to protect you, what healthy ways can you protect yourself instead? A good example with weight loss is oftentimes people gain weight as a means to protect themselves. They feel uncomfortable with the way that they were looked at when they were younger, and so they want to look differently. They feel like they had to protect when they were younger, and they were small and weak, and this is the way of being big and strong. Okay, so with weight loss, what we want to do is we want to change that mindset of, okay, well, I recognize, body, that you want to protect me by making me big and strong, but how about we improve my health? And that's going to make me strong. That's going to make me feel better. Okay, so what other role can you give that self-sabotaging behavior that's more in alignment with what you really want? Anyway, it's pretty heady stuff today, isn't it? So I realized today's topic was sensitive, and when you book a discovery call with me, it is free. Okay, so if you find that you're feeling a little off, you're feeling triggered, but you're also on the cusp of transformation, then I can help you. Okay, that's what I do. So even if you don't want to work with me after the call, I have a referral network. So if I'm not your girl, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just so grateful that you reached out. This is why I say at the end of every single statement that I make, here's to showing up for you, because you did that, right? So even booking the call with me, deciding not to work with me, that is okay, because you showed up for you. And maybe there's somebody else that can support you that's in more alignment with what you're looking for. Okay. Anyway, don't forget to sign up for my workshop. For all of you ladies who are watching this, it is starting on December 6th. My aim is to get 300 of you into my workshop. It is free. It is 5 days. Okay, it's not 8 hours a day. Okay, we're going to go for roughly 60 minutes every single day for 5 days. You can do that. Okay, you can give yourself 60 minutes to learn more about your unique archetype. We are all different. And I want you to stop shaming yourself and guilting yourself for not being able to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to exercise, or doing that and not seeing the results, or, not realizing that you could be doing things differently, which would make it so much easier for you to lose weight. Okay. So here's the showing up for you. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.